The epic and bloody saga of Queen Brunhilda and Queen Fredegund, the most ruthless feud in medieval history. In the chaotic aftermath of the Roman Empire's fall, the 6th and 7th centuries saw the rise of the Merovingian Franks, a dynasty of long-haired kings who carved out one of Europe's most powerful realms from the ruins of Gaul. Their kingdom was not a unified empire, but a fractured land divided among rival brothers, where civil wars were commonplace, and family loyalty often ended in assassination. This was an age of iron swords, wooden shields, and unyielding ambition, where women behind the throne could wield as much power as the kings themselves, sometimes more. At the center of this turbulent era stood two extraordinary and terrifying women: Brunhilda, a Visigothic princess born into royalty, and Fredegund, a former slave who clawed her way to queenship through cunning and murder. Their rivalry lasted over 40 years, sparking endless wars, orchestrating dozens of assassinations, and leaving a trail of dead kings and princes. It was a feud so vicious that it nearly destroyed the Frankish realm, only ending with one of the most gruesome executions in history. Our story begins in the sunny Visigothic kingdom of Hispania, modern-day Spain. Around 543 AD, in the royal city of Toledo, Brunhilda was born to King Athanagild and Queen Goiswintha. She grew up as a true princess, educated, beautiful, and raised in the Arian Christian faith dominant among the Visigoths. Brunhilda was known for her sharp intellect, piety, and unyielding pride in her royal bloodline. From a young age, she learned the arts of diplomacy and court life, skills that would serve her well in the treacherous world she was destined to enter. Far to the north, in the colder lands of Gaul, Fredegund's origins were humble and obscure. Born around 545, possibly as a slave or low-born servant in the household of King Chilperic I of Neustria, she possessed stunning beauty and ruthless ambition. Rising from servitude, she became Chilperic's mistress, displacing his previous wives through intrigue and alleged poisonings. Fredegund understood power in its rawest form. It was not inherited but seized. She eliminated anyone who stood between her and the throne, earning a reputation for cold calculation and deadly efficiency. The spark that ignited their lifelong hatred came from royal marriages. In 561, after the death of their father Clotaire the Fern, the Frankish kingdom split among his sons. Sigebert ruled Austrasia in the east, Chilperic ruled Neustria in the west, Guntram Burgundy in the south, and Charibert Paris, though his share soon dissolved. Seeking to elevate his status above his brothers, Sigebert married Brunhilda in 567. She arrived in Metz, the Austrasian capital, with a massive dowry of gold, silver, and treasures. To seal her place among the Franks, she converted from Arianism to Catholicism, winning admiration for her grace, intelligence, and devotion. Their wedding was a grand celebration, marking Austrasia as the most prestigious of the Frankish realms. Jealous of his brother's alliance with Visigothic royalty, Chilperic demanded Brunhilda's older sister, Galswintha, as his bride. Galswintha arrived with her own lavish dowry, but Chilperic remained obsessed with Fredegund. Just months after the marriage in 568, Galswintha was found strangled in her bed. Chilperic swiftly married Fredegund days later, claiming no knowledge of the murder, but suspicion fell squarely on the new queen. Brunhilda was devastated by her sister's death. This was no mere personal tragedy. It was an insult to her bloodline and an act of war. From that moment, she swore eternal vengeance. The feud between the two queens had begun, a deadly rivalry that would consume generations. Brunhilda urged Sigebert to attack Neustria to avenge Galswintha. Civil war erupted across the Frankish lands. Armies marched, villages burned, and warriors clashed in brutal combat. By 575, Sigebert's forces had gained the upper hand. Victory seemed certain. As Sigebert prepared to be crowned king of Neustria in Vitry, two assassins, armed with poisoned daggers known as scramsaxes, infiltrated his camp. Sent by Fredegund, they struck him down in a swift and bloody ambush. Sigebert died almost instantly. Widowed and vulnerable, Brunhilda was captured by Chilperic's forces and imprisoned in Rouen. Her young son, Childebert II, only 5 years old, was proclaimed king of Austrasia. But without his mother, his throne was in jeopardy. In captivity, Brunhilda's fate seemed sealed. Yet fate took another dramatic turn. Chilpric's own son, Merovec, rebelled against his father and stepmother, Fredegund. In an act of defiance, he secretly married Brunhilda, linking himself to the Austrasian royal line and challenging Fredegund's dominance. Enraged, Fredegund demanded the marriage be annulled. Merovec was hunted down and eventually met a violent end. Many believed murdered on Fredegund's orders. Through cunning and allies still loyal to her, Brunhilda escaped Rouen and returned to Austrasia. She seized the regency for her young son, Childebert II, ruling in his name with absolute authority. The Austrasian nobles resisted this foreign Visigothic queen, but Brunhilda proved herself a master ruler. She built roads and bridges, some still known as Brunhilda's causeways, founded monasteries, strengthened the Catholic Church's influence, and maintained diplomatic ties with the Byzantine Empire and the papacy. Her court became a center of culture and faith in an otherwise brutal age. The wars between the kingdoms dragged on for years. In 587, Brunhilda negotiated the crucial Treaty of Andelot with King Guntram of Burgundy, her brother-in-law. The treaty ensured that upon Guntram's death, Burgundy would pass to her son, Childebert, uniting two major kingdoms. When Guntram died in 592, the alliance held, strengthening Austrasia-Burgundy against Neustria. Childebert II grew into a capable king under his mother's guidance, but tragedy struck again in 595 when he died suddenly at the age of 26. Poison was widely suspected, though never proven. At over 50 years old, Brunhilda became regent once more, this time for her grandsons, Theudebert II in Austrasia and Theuderic II in Burgundy. She openly favored the younger Theuderic, sowing discord between the brothers to maintain her own control over both kingdoms. During this period, Brunhilda invited the Irish monk Columbanus to establish monasteries, including the famous abbey at Luxeuil. She supported his strict reforms at first, but when Columbanus publicly criticized the moral laxity of the royal court, including the practice of kings taking concubines, Brunhilda turned against him. Fredegund died in 597 in Paris, reportedly of natural causes, though her death did nothing to end the feud. Her hatred lived on through her son, Clothar II, now king of Neustria. Between 599 and 612, open war broke out between Brunhilda's grandsons. Backing Theuderic, she urged him to crush his brother, Theudebert. In 612, Theuderic's forces defeated Theudebert in battle. Captured, Theudebert and his young son were executed on Brunhilda's orders, a brutal act that shocked even hardened Frankish nobles. But divine justice, or mere coincidence, struck swiftly. Theuderic fell gravely ill and died of dysentery in 613, leaving behind infant sons, including young Sigebert II. Now nearly 70 years old, an extraordinary age in the early medieval world, Brunhilda proclaimed herself regent yet again, ruling in the name of her great-grandson, Sigebert II. But the Frankish aristocracy had endured enough. Decades of war, heavy taxes, purges of rivals, and domination by this foreign queen bred deep resentment. Powerful figures, including Warnachar, the mayor of the Palace of Burgundy, and other nobles, secretly defected to Clothar II. Their story is more than ancient gossip. It is a tale of how two women, one born to power, one who seized it, wrote history with blood and fire. From poisoned daggers to wild horses, from strangled queens to betrayed armies, the feud of Brunhilda and Fredegund remains one of the most savage, dramatic, and unforgettable rivalries in all of medieval history.